We are now recording.
All right, so hello, this is the Amherst Energy and Climate Action Committee, or the ECAC. We were organized to guide the town in meeting its climate mitigation and resilience goals. Those goals and the plans for getting there are adopted from the Climate Action Adaptation and Resilience Plan, or CARP, which Amherst is trying very hard to follow. It was accepted by the town in 2021. It took 2016 as its base year and called for a 25% reduction in carbon emissions by 2025. 50% by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2050. Those are ambitious goals. This committee has two primary functions: one, to advise the town council and recommend or propose policies or actions to help us meet the goals, and two, to promote a just, equitable, and speedy climate response through outreach and engagement of town and local stakeholders. And with that, we come to our agenda, the first item in which is to review the minutes from last time. I can share them. Where'd they go? There they are. Share. I made some notes because there were a couple of things that I wanted to, I just read them a few minutes ago, so I had a couple of corrections that I just sent to Stephanie. So starting at the top. Can you all see that okay? I wanted to make a change here that I noted that USA Recycling, it's not that they're considering picking up, it's that they're advertising now that they pick up food waste for composting at an additional fee, which they're discounting for the first couple of months. So they got the message. Anyway, and then although it is expensive, it's not cheap. So overview of the climate bill. There's a typo here. I think that should be 2 communities. And I wanted to change, please, diesel fuel derived from soybean oil to just renewable diesel, because it comes from a lot of places, and UMass is claiming theirs comes from waste, which we'll talk about later. Any other changes or comments?
I had one suggested change, section 4, overview of climate bill and smart program. Under key points, the third bullet down, regulations expected by March 26. I think that's March of 2026.
Aha, okay.
I think the regulations are not expected until spring of 2026.
So March.
It might just be better to say spring of 2026.
Okay. Just to be clearer.
Well, yeah, Lori, just send me this version then, please.
I'll do that as soon as we're done. I put all the changes in the comments, not in the text itself.
Okay, I'll take care of it.
Any other changes?
Also, just before we move on, we don't have a minute taker.
Oh yeah, oh that's right. I'm sorry, we need a minute taker. I always forget this was last time. So Caitlin, you want to give it a try or
I can do it.
Okay. Who did it? Tony did it last time?
Tony did it last time.
Okay. All right. All right, Caitlin, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, good. So let's move on. Oh, wait, we have to decide. We have to first accept the minutes. So do we have a move to accept the minutes as they are? Is there more here? Oh, there's a little bit more.
As amended. Yeah, just as amended.
As amended?
I so move.
Second.
All second, Steve Roof.
Right, let me stop sharing. Stop sharing. There we go.
Okay. And in no particular order. And Tony, we need you to be on camera to vote. I don't know if that's possible, but.
And Caitlin. Yeah,
And
if it's
Caitlin,
possible.
you both need to be on camera to vote. Okay, Goldner,
Yes.
Leinung,
Yes.
Drucker,
Yes.
Roof,
Yes.
McElrath,
Yes.
and Davis.
Yes.
Okay, minutes are approved.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is comments from the attendees, from the public. Arlie. If there are any, oh, sorry, I should not give names, but if anybody would like to make a comment. If not, we did receive some input from the public that we will talk about later. Okay. So, and if anybody does need to make a comment, there's a hand raise button at the bottom of Zoom, your Zoom screen, that you should be able to click on. All right, so if not, then we will go on. Actually, should we, so Stephanie, where is the right place in the agenda to put public comment that comes in by email like that? Should we do that now or should we do that later as updates?
I think you could do it as ECAC updates.
Okay,
Because it's not on the agenda as an agenda item, so we
Right.
don't want to open comment during
okay,
the meeting.
okay. All right. In that case, waste related topics, I have nothing on this time around. But I do have an awful lot on item 4, which is the UMass climate plan discussion. So can I share a screen? I just sent you a bunch of emails, including this slightly reduced version of much reduced version of the presentation that's in the packet. And it has one additional slide on it. So I sent it to you, Stephanie, to add to the packet. And can I share that now? Okay, let me go ahead and share this. There it is. Let's see, I have to put this into, oh, what just happened? Disappeared. Is it sharing the right thing?
I saw a graph.
Yeah, okay, it's disappeared from my screen though. Let me try to find it. Find it first and then share it. I see why. Okay, let me try to share it now. Share that one. Okay, that looks better. Let me see if I can get this into slideshow mode. All right. So can you guys see that okay? Let's see if I can put you in side by side or can you see that okay? At a yes? Okay.
Yes.
Let me just, how come I can't put this in side by side mode? Where is it? All right, I'll just make you thumbnails. There we go. Do you see yourself on top of the graph or no? You don't see it, right? You just see the graph.
Yep, just the graph.
Okay, good, because I don't know how to get you out of the way without taking this out of slideshow mode. Okay, any rate, UMass had a very nice, under the last chancellor, Supaswamy, UMass had a very nice open process by which a climate plan was made, and there's a lot of information about it at the link on the top of this page. I pulled out this one chart. It wasn't even a discussion of the plan. It was just sort of the places where they saw, where they saw different solutions making an impact and roughly the order that they would happen in. And you can see there's things that, business as usual emissions is about 125,000. This is 125,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalents a year. So that's sort of where we're at, and we're still there. Business as usual emissions, right? That's business as usual. With a little bit of behavior change, you can knock off a couple of percent. On-site photovoltaics is doing a nice job of knocking off another few megawatts. Right now, I think they have 5 megawatts of capacity and 1 or 2 megawatts producing every day, producing at a rate of a couple megawatts every day, I think. Changing to green transport, fleet electrification. This purple is green building renovations. strategic energy management. They do have I'll talk about it a little bit. They have a fantastic, so one of the things that UMass has that is both a blessing and a little bit of a curse right now is an almost brand new, 10 years old, I think, cogeneration plant. It makes both electric and heat, and it's ridiculously, it is the state of the art in what you can do in a power plant. It makes 10 megawatts of power and it heats the campus. And it uses 75% of the power, 76% of the power that it takes in the way in methane, in natural gas, the potential, you know, the 75% of the energy that goes in of burning that natural gas is actually harnessed and used, which is enormous, really enormous. So it's incredibly efficient. It, you know, on the scale of fossil fuel type plants, it's wonderful, but it's also almost new and nobody's in a hurry to replace it. So it's a little bit of a puzzle. Anyway, I'll talk more about that in a minute. So strategic energy management at that plant, how they take from the grid, when they take from the grid. There's a lot of energy management stuff that goes into that can be done in a strategic way. They were always planning on making one of their oil boilers. So in addition to this cogeneration plant that makes heat, that makes a lot of heat, they do occasionally need to use backup, additional heat, either because the cogeneration plant is down. Turns out that 15 days out of the year, Eversource gets to cut off their gas. So they get a day, oh, we're cutting your gas off today. So they have to have boilers for backup. Boilers both to run, I think, the steam generator and to heat the campus. So yeah, the gas turbine, they have a gas fueled turbine that runs both a generator directly and from the steam it produces, from the steam that's produced from its output heat. They also run steam turbines to produce additional electric. So it's a very interesting system, but if there's no gas, all that goes down and they still need these backup boilers. And they were planning on making one of them renewable fuel, which is sort of what they have now done so far. And this is where the problem comes, because all of a sudden the plan is to use renewable fuel everywhere, what they call renewable fuel. They were also going to, now the other thing is we use steam. The cogeneration plant makes steam. Every building on campus, on the main part of the campus, a lot of buildings, except for the new ones that are going up that do use geothermal, all of the buildings on campus, and there are a lot of them, use steam to heat, all in one giant steam district, okay? And this is a problem because there is not a good way to make steam with heat pumps. To use ground source heat pumps, you need low temperature hot water. You need water at 120 degrees or something like that. You need water or even at 55, sorry, it's actually low temperature. You need 55-degree water going into the heat pump, but somewhere you need to circulate water, not steam at different temperatures, right? So this is a problem because they do not have the infrastructure for this, and every heating unit in every building, as well as the piping, all the infrastructure needs to be changed over. And that is huge. They've been doing a little bit of this, I understand, converting some buildings as they renovate to air source heat pumps or to ground source heat pumps, but it's only the buildings that are getting renovated anyway, so far. So this conversion is the way they're going to have to go to electrify things. Okay. Although they're not planning on that now, they're planning on doing something a little different, or they're thinking about doing something a little different. They don't have a plan yet, as far as I can tell. All right, so they need to convert to low temperature hot water to use ground source heating. They also want to do wastewater heat recovery, which will get them a little bit more, and can even be used to make steam with steam generating heat pumps that need hot water to start with rather than groundwater, right? There's a little bit of air source heating and cooling, a little bit of on-site solar thermal storage, I think this was supposed to be, or just on-site solar thermal for heat. There was originally a decentralized modern wood thermal system, which I think has since been, it's not going to happen. The state won't allow it. And then they were going to do a little bit with carbon offsets and renewable energy credits. So that was the original plan. It was pretty well spelled out. They didn't have a building by building stepwise, but they knew this is what they were going to do. And they were very ambitious about trying to get to carbon zero by 2032 or so, 2030 or 2032. Okay. So this is where things are today. This is carbon output for the last couple of years. It's still pretty flat. They haven't actually started doing much yet. They're doing a little bit. But the carbon output, the campus is also growing. So the carbon output has stayed pretty flat. And I think this is the, and they're breaking it up now into scope 1 and scope 2 emissions. So scope 1 emissions are things they directly burn at the power plant. So they create emissions by burning gas at the power plant. That's scope 1. Scope 2 emissions are the electric that they use. Okay. And most of their emissions are scope 1, are from the fuels they're using at the power plant. Okay. Now here's the rub, right? Scope 1 emissions do not include emissions from renewable fuels. They're supposed to be reported, if my understanding of the greenhouse gas protocols is that they're supposed to be reported separately with scope 1, but they're not included in scope 1. And the reason for that is that nobody, oh, by the way, scope 3 is the embedded carbon, the carbon in everything you buy, right? How much carbon did it take to produce that? And that's where they put the carbon cost of renewable fuels, of biofuels. But nobody knows how to calculate it. And increasingly, there's evidence now that, for example, ethanol, which is the longest example we have, we've been adding ethanol to fuel since the energy crisis in the 70s, which we did because of the oil crisis. There wasn't enough oil, so let's add ethanol to fuel. At least that was my recollection of why that originally happened. And now as part of the renewable fuel standard, it's required to happen. But it hasn't decreased carbon emissions at all, because as it turns out, the land use cost in carbon of growing all that corn for ethanol costs you more carbon than burning gasoline. So it's not actually working. And soy, the things they make renewable diesel out of are worse. So it's probably a higher cost if you're talking about renewable diesel. But they don't count in scope 1. So all of a sudden at Faculty Senate last week, and I got wind of this just a few days earlier, the university is now planning on reducing its carbon. And they convolves, they didn't seem at first to understand the difference between scope 1 carbon and actual carbon impact. But this is how they're going to do it, by using renewable fuels. I should go back a little. This is what they're currently doing. I don't know how. This is the new plant. It makes, it makes a lot of steam. It makes a lot of electricity. It uses natural gas. The boilers use ultra low sulfur diesel and liquid natural gas, depending on the market, I guess. And now renewable diesel, quote unquote. They also have these substations that provide energy. But one of the big problems they have is that you cannot, and this is something I didn't appreciate until yesterday, they only get so much electricity, electricity from the grid. And they can't break the grid. So if the cogeneration plant suddenly goes down, the lines from the substation, from the Tilson substation onto the campus substations have to be able to carry, the 10 megawatts or 11 megawatts that the power station is putting out, plus whatever they were carrying before. So what that means is that we're really limited by those lines, that you can't, for redundancy reasons and for, if you were to overload the grid, you would bring down large sections of it, right? So you can't do that. You can't suddenly demand more current than you trip a breaker somewhere and the grid goes down, right? So the lines going into campus limit them now to about 36 megawatts, 35 megawatts. And that is not enough to start seriously electrifying on top of all the other problems. So they're trying to blame the problem on that. But my understanding from today is that they're always in negotiations about how much power they get. Everybody's doing this and everybody's planning on doubling. So it's just an ongoing process. And they've been telling the power company that in 10 years, they'll need twice as much power. So, it's a process. But they are limited, no matter what they produce on campus, they are limited by those feeders to campus. All right. So they're all worried about these scope 1 emissions from the central heating plant. So, oh, this is some of their new stuff. I just wanted to point this out. They are doing some good things with the new computer lab. You know, they've sunk now. This is actually really interesting. 70 geothermal wells to, I think it's 2 buildings or 3 buildings that are included in this new complex, right? But that's how many 800 feet deep each, in order to do geothermal for, you know, a few new buildings. So this is another problem. They claim they don't really have enough space on campus for all the geothermal wells they would need to electrify the entire campus. So it's a real problem, that's for sure. And they're also putting in this energy storage tank, which is an interesting idea. There's a lot of ideas for this out there. This one is a cold water tank, basically for cooling in the summer. So they're putting in some storage, which you need, again, especially if you're trying to balance the load between peak and not peak. You're trying to use energy when it's available and cheap and the campus isn't using it, and then store it so you can use it later in some way. So this would be for chillers, for air conditioning. And they're putting up a lot of solar, which is great. We learned today at faculty meeting, it was said that we don't have enough room for any more solar. We're done with solar. But today we learned that, in fact, you could double the solar on campus. You still have the problem of grid, right? Of you can't increase the power from the grid, but you can put more solar up on campus within that limit. This is the problem. So all of the electrification on campus, they came up with a number of something like $2 billion to electrify campus. And rather than start working on it, they went screaming in the other direction and decided that they were going to do renewable diesel all the way. They haven't, I don't want to say they decided to do this. They commissioned a study that made this the obvious choice because it's so incredibly cheap to do. And the study used as a parameter that renewable diesel has 0 carbon impact. They were told to use 0. The company, Waldron is the company that did it, and they know quite a lot about what's going on campus. So they did this study, and of course, renewable diesel won by a lot because 0 carbon and really cheap. And the problem is that that's not true, right? It's really not true. That there's not even any, you know, if you, there's a recent blog by Jeremy Martin at the Union of Concerned Scientists that really spells out where this fuel is coming from. That in the US, something like half of our soybeans are already, I think it might even be 60%, are already going to fuel, and that the soybean production was ramped way up for that reason. And we're pretty much maxed out, which means that if anybody needs more renewable fuel, renewable diesel, somebody's going to have to plant palm oil trees in Brazil or something. There's just not a lot more space for it here. And that's what's happening. Companies are building palm plantations in Brazil and trying to get away with calling stuff waste, but there is no such thing as waste oil. All of it either goes into animal feed or it goes into, you know, there's no such thing as waste oil on a commercial, on this scale. There just isn't. And anytime someone sells you waste oil, it means somebody else has to replace it with palm oil. It's palm oil, soy oil, corn oil, rapeseed oil, which is canola. And all of the 3 oils, other than corn, all have worse impact on the land use carbon emissions than corn. So this is bad. It was originally designed, renewable diesel was originally designed to be a replacement for aviation fuel and trucking diesel, because those are the 2 things that you really didn't have a replacement for. Now, trucking will probably become electric before it'll ever be mostly renewable diesel. There is renewable diesel in California mostly. California uses it. But for aviation, there's not really another solution yet. So it makes sense maybe for a while to try to do this for aviation. and might maybe try to work on making it more renewable, which is mostly a matter of keeping the numbers small, right? But now, as it turns out, power plants, cogeneration plants like UMass and power plants everywhere are doing this. The TVA just did a trial burn of renewable diesel in one of their major power plants, right? It's not only it's cogeneration. So this is frightening. And UMass leading the way is, in my mind, even more frightening. We should be not leading the way in this bad trend. It was never supposed to be used this way. I couldn't find an IPCC report that mentioned anything other than transport for use of renewable fuels like this. And this is the timeline. This is what they want to do. Tillman made it very clear at the faculty senate meeting that this is what they want to do. And this is a little less clear than the plot he showed before, because it's not showing how much. I don't know quite what this is showing, except that he's using renewable diesel to take scope 1 down to 0. That's what it's showing. And this is all renewable diesel. And he calls it emissions reduction from the use of renewable fuel. And this would be replacing methane in this beautiful clean burning cogeneration plant. Okay, so they've already doing a test burn with one boiler, right? Like they were always supposed to do. Okay, so they're using one boiler. They've already ordered 100,000 gallons of this stuff for this winter. They have an 8,000 gallon storage tank. They're going to use 100,000 gallons this winter for one boiler. But this is a whole lot more, because this is making the cogeneration plant, which currently burns methane, which already burns 50% cleaner than, not quite 50%, 30% cleaner. It's 50% worse than burning diesel. Sorry, other way around. Diesel is 50% worse than burning methane. That's what I'm trying to say, as far as CO2 emissions go. And renewable diesel is diesel. It's just diesel refined from vegetable, plant, animal oils, tall oils, which are tree oils. Any oil they can get, they can now refine into diesel, right? That's what is happening all over the world to refineries. They're retooling to do these vegetable and animal fats instead of fossil fats, fossil fuels, fossil oils. So they want to use this stuff, supposedly to get to 0 emissions. And then maybe slowly start to electrify a little bit. So that was what they were pushing. They also said, well, we could follow the old plan and do this, but it's going to cost us $2 billion. This is the old plan where they're still calling this scope 1 emissions going to 0 because of renewable fuel, but that's ridiculous. This is the more important thing, that they get to 0 from electrifying faster. So this was problematic, and this was the takeaway, that it's $2 billion to heat and cool the entire campus with electricity. And he did have a few things that they wanted, that they're doing or want to do. I won't go through all of this. The main thing that I'm concerned about is I don't want to see them take that nice, clean burning, beautifully efficient methane plant and turn it into a diesel plant. I think that's a bad idea. It's not in any way carbon zero. And they have a plan for doing that. I think they may even have already started doing some testing or ordering some, there are parts they have to order. There's a retrofit. That's it. There's a retrofit. The company that made the cogeneration, the gas turbine, the fuel turbine generator system has a retrofit for diesel, and for renewable diesel in particular. So they can relatively inexpensively get it retrofitted for renewable diesel. And this is not just UMass, it's a much bigger problem. All right, so that's what's going on at UMass that I really thought this group should know about. And I think that was the last slide for Tillman. Sorry, I should have taken that out. But the slide, his entire packet is in there, and I can answer questions. Steve, go ahead. Do you have a?
Yeah, this is interesting. And I've got a bunch of questions about the details and down in the weeds about it. But I'm wondering what sort of jurisdiction ECAC has on this issue. And if we proceed with discussion, what's the purpose or the point
Yeah.
of that?
Yeah, I thought about that a little bit, and I thought that it's something that we should know about and that the town should know about, because if they do this plan, the air will get dirtier. And I think folks should know about that. So I think it's not, I don't think I don't think ECAC can do anything, but I hope the town manager gets wind of this and maybe starts discussing with the university what's going on, because this wasn't the plan. All right, any rate, Laura, and then Stephanie. And then Stevie.
No,
Yeah. I think we need to look back to our goals again. But I do distinctly remember our conversations about whether to include, and maybe we're not so specific in our goals, but we definitely had a conversation when we set our goals that about whether or not to include the colleges in our baseline, and therefore they would be part of our emissions. And I think we decided that we should, because for two reasons. One being that the colleges are part of our town and they have plans to reduce emissions that they could or could not keep, as we're discussing today. And so on the one hand, if they do keep their ambitious plans, that does a lot to help us meet our targets. And we specifically said, on the other hand, if they backtrack, we would want to be able to engage with them on that. Now, what jurisdiction we actually have is a different question, but I do think we left them in because for situations like this, if I'm recalling the conversation correctly, and maybe Stephanie can remembers better than I do.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
So I was gonna really weigh more in on the jurisdiction part. But my recollection is that we just had an update of our inventory. So, and I'm pretty sure we were trying to get information from the three colleges, but we don't have a complete set of data. So I think it was more like we weren't counting on them necessarily, but we were certainly, as you said, Laura, referencing that they do have a major impact, especially UMass because it's so large.
I think it's about as large as our own impact, isn't it? Isn't the 120,000
Yes,
about the
absolutely.
same size?
Well, as far as the municipality goes, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're talking about the town in general, yes. If you're talking about the municipal side, we're tiny. You know, the municipal side is 3%. UMass is more like 45%. So yes, it does have it has a pretty significant impact. What I wanted to talk about more though was the jurisdiction. In and of itself, you all have no jurisdiction at all. I mean, you're not a governing body, no offense, but you're advisory to the town manager. And in my mind, what that means is that if in a situation like this may be something where you want to express your concern, maybe in a letter to the town manager. And then where that goes from there, the town manager may, or, I would think would either address it with the counselors. I mean, I think it's also, your residents of the town, you either, well, let me go back to what I was saying. As a committee, you are a committee to advise the town manager. That's your role. So what I would say is, in this case, to keep it really straightforward, if you're really concerned about this and as a committee, you want to express that, you should write a letter to the town manager. That's what I think you should do with this.
Okay.
But you as a body don't have any authority or ability to do anything about it. It can't, but it can, it can at least raise the concern to the town manager enough that, and I can't guarantee where it goes from there. If he brings it to the council, I don't really know what that next step might or might not be.
Right.
Of course, there are very, cultivated relationships with the institutions in the town. So, which is, I think, part of, like, I recall when Dwayne was on the committee, Dwayne was very clear about not including the university in, in our calculations, like keeping them sort of separate, from what the town does. So, again, I would just say we can express concern and we can give that to the town manager. And then where it goes from there is really up to the town manager and the council.
Yeah, I have to say, I had been really happy with what I saw going on at UMass, so I never paid any attention to the climate plan because Dwayne was in charge. And Ezra Small is a great guy, and now with this new, yeah, with this new administration, I guess we can't take our eyes off anything. And really, the lack of transparency and the not being allowed to talk to people is really concerning. The fact that I tried to get a tour that any of you could book at the power plant with Darren Lanois. He offers tours to the public all the time. I tried to book a tour and I got blocked. I'm not allowed to speak to him alone. That is really troubling, and that troubles a lot of faculty. Any rate, that's the new reality at UMass. All right, so the good news is none of it's a done deal. I think they are, at least some of them in the administration, they all know what needs to be done. I think they all understand that this is not a solution. I think they're all being told what to do and just taking marching orders. So that's the good news. I think they get it. So. All right, we should probably move on. If folks, I should ask one thing. Does writing a letter sound like the right thing to do? Do we have consensus on that? Because if so, I'll draft something. Unless someone else
We
wants to
should
do it.
definitely say something.
Okay.
I
All
had
right,
one
so-
question about this. If like the powers that be decide, there's nothing anyone can do, how reversible is this change down the
Yeah, really good question. So we asked that about the boilers. For the boiler that they've done already, it was designed to use multiple fuels anyway. They've already done a stack test. They actually tested. So one of the things about renewable biofuels that Dwayne would tell you is that he actually is not as against them in general as I am, because he firmly believes that done locally and done carefully with the counting for carbon and the entire life cycle of the fuel, right? You can do a renewable biofuel that makes sense. And Neste, the company that sells this stuff, claims that it's 25 to 49% the amount of CO2 used by diesel, right? Fossil diesel. So to the extent that it's just another diesel and it passed the stack test, it passed all the tests at UMass, it got a permit from the state, it's completely reversible. They already have the ability in that one boiler to go back and forth. I think that retrofitting the cogeneration turbine would be a much bigger deal. That's a big retrofit. It's relatively inexpensive compared to everything else, but I don't think it's as easy to go back and forth. Now, it could be that they could use either, but I don't know. That I don't know. But I really hope they never get there. That's, they shouldn't be doing that. All right, Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should definitely write a letter to the town manager to make sure he's aware and CC the town council, or maybe he shares. I don't know how that works. I think we have to recognize that they're up against some real funding challenges. And slide 20 in this deck, shows the cost of electrification as well as the cost of the renewable fuel, which is also more expensive. I think we need to maybe really hone in our message to be providing some tangible suggestions. I do think that's a good question around the retrofit of the cogen and whether that's going to lock us into diesel or whether that's going to be retrofitting them to be dual fuel. And so we could switch back to natural gas if needed. If it is going to lock them into a type of diesel fuel, I do think that's a real problem because I don't think they can rely on the supply of renewable fuel.
No, absolutely not.
And so I think that's something we should maybe ask about. or in potential and the supply of renewable diesel fuel that checks all the boxes, that makes it less of a carbon burden over its life cycle than other versions of renewable diesel. I also think that it is a bit short-sighted, because the electrification of campus, I think, has longer term value in terms of providing the opportunity to operate the campus on a lower temperature heating system that can be powered by electricity, of which renewable sources continue to get cheaper, and of which battery storage and other opportunities continue to evolve. So I think that maybe that's the message we should be leading with. That maybe this is seen as a short-term financial decision, but in the long term, it probably will not be a smart financial decision, nor will it be good for the climate.
The
So
longer we wait, the more expensive it gets too. I mean, that's what a lot of places are finding that decided to do this sooner rather than later and that have the wherewithal, right? It makes sense to do it now. In 10 years, it'll be way too expensive.
yeah, and I think they should be, I don't know how much, I mean, they say here possible source of funding, federal, state, like, I'm not sure how much they're pushing on the state to give them the money to do this work. I mean, this is something that the state is required. I mean, UMass is under the state climate plan, and therefore, I do think like they should be pushing for support to do this. I know that that is easier said than done because they want state level support for lots of things. But I do think that's another area where they should be making sure that they're letting the state know that they want to do this electrification. They know it's better in the long term for the state goals and the college goals, but in the short term, they're struggling with the financing to do it. So anyway, happy to like help with the letter. I think we can potentially word it in a way that's more helpful than just sort of telling them they're doing the wrong thing and leaving it at that. I personally, as someone who's been in the role of trying to do this stuff, like those letters aren't that helpful.
Steve? Thanks, Laura. I'll take you up on the offer to help with the letter.
Yeah, just tagging onto that, I think the letter might most appropriately to pose some questions in addition to the concerns, and those questions could be about what would the air quality impact be, and then pose those questions so the town manager can, if he decides, to pursue that with UMass. So in addition to presenting some current concerns, I think the first step is in my way of thinking is asking the questions and then seeing how well the concerns are founded. And then the other note of caution, Lori, just you're an employee of UMass and you're passionate about this. We don't want this to look like you're using the ECAC to carry out something that that you as an employee of UMass is not favorable to. So I just wanted to keep that in mind as we move forward.
Yeah, I am trying to keep these roles separate, but of course it's not easy. I made an announcement at the start of the tour today that I was there as a faculty member and not representing the town. That was not my job to represent the town. And I'm here as a member of ECAC reporting on what I know to be going on at UMass. So I can't, yeah. But I mean, there's no secrets here. I was quite vocal about my opinions at Faculty Senate last week, or 2 weeks ago now.
I was just going to jump in real quick. I think I really like Steve's input as well about posing questions for the town to consider in terms of the impacts, because we do have these goals and they are a big contributor to the town's emissions. So I think it's a legitimate concern. To Steve's point as well, I think we need to be maybe less, I don't want to say less passionate, because of course we all care passionately about the topic, but I think sort of less you know, on the offensive towards UMass. I think we want to try to understand what it is that they're doing and why, and
Yeah.
sort of express concern about the approach and, you know, and what the implications of this shift will be to the town. I think those are very valid and legitimate ways to approach it.
You know, something just occurred to me. I may not be the best person to write this for that reason, for this mix-up reason. And since Jesse left, we don't have a, what do you call it? A vice chair of right. So we need somebody to be the vice chair who can do this, who doesn't work for UMass. I think that's probably the right way to handle it. Does that make sense, Stephanie? What do you think?
You know, well, you're certainly the chair, but you are an employee of UMass, and I mean, I don't think this has a direct bearing financially on you, so
No.
I think you know, I think maybe it just has to be sort of a disclosure that you're an employee of UMass, but I think if you write it with Laura, I mean, as long as you and Laura maybe work on it together,
Okay.
you know, so that maybe Laura can sort of temper the, you know, the sort of more,
Laura, do you want to take a
personal
first stab?
investment.
Maybe I should ask Laura if she'd be willing to take a first stab at it.
Yeah, happy to do it. And I think Steve's suggestion of posing the first interaction as questions is a good one.
Yeah.
And let's see where it goes from there.
Yeah, some of the questions that we come up with, I might be able to answer is from what, so I may have already asked Tillman. So depending on what goes into this, I can tweak and edit a little bit, if there are some answers, but you probably want to hear them from him anyway.
I was gonna
Yeah, I
say,
mean, it
yeah.
doesn't, if there are answers that you didn't like the answer to, maybe good to ask them
Ask them
again
again.
and get them in writing if we can.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah,
All right, all right. Why don't you take a first stab at that and then send it to me for my input, and I'll just send it, it'll go through you, not through me. And we'll sign off on it as ECAC or something like that.
yeah, that sounds good.
All right, so Laura, just make a note there. Yeah, because yeah. Okay. If there's nothing else on that, let's go on to education and outreach. Don is not here today. Tony, you have something for us, I think. On coordination with local groups.
I do. I have not looked at that today. By the way, I did a defense this morning, so I am,
Yay.
yeah, it was great, but I haven't looked at anything outside of that
Well,
for the past
congratulations.
week and a half. Thank you. So I'm going to pull this up really quickly and, oh, I like myself a lot for doing things like this. I already prepared
So if
everything
you
needed.
did a defense, are you going to be, well, like, are you going to be leaving us sometime soon? No.
I have I'm doing 2 dissertation level research projects. So that was the first.
Okay.
The second is the harder of the 2, unfortunately. But so I sent to Stephanie, who forwarded to all of you, just a very rough draft of the merger between, not a merger, it's the wrong word, the organized event between Elevate and ECAC. I met with the Elevate department organizer and essentially boiled down to what Elevate would like to understand is the policy side of climate and energy. Essentially, they work a lot in classroom settings with developing and implementing technology advancements, but what they were interested in from the ECAC side would be how we navigate policies, how we stay updated on policies. As Stephanie mentioned earlier, we don't have much agency to change because essentially we are pushers and informants for local politics. So they're also interested in how we execute that, how we achieve that. They're interested in the development of our own CARP and how we are maintaining accountability and actionable results towards that. So essentially Elevate is interested in the application side of a lot of the things that they're that we think about in the classroom. And I've outlined that within the framework that you can look over. So all I would say from that is, as ECAC, we can kind of figure out what would be useful to share or gain from Elevate. And over the course of the week / couple weeks, I imagine everyone's going to have holiday plans. So sometime in January, look over the forwarded file / email and make notes of any things you want to change, alterations, comments, ideas, circumstances that you think would be helpful or unhelpful. We did decide to do this in May, though. That is, it can be after May, of course. It can be June, July, but anytime after April, just because we have the Elevate Symposium, and I'm assuming ECAC is also doing the Sustainability Fair again this year, which I'm also assuming is in April. So anything after all of that fits. So there's some time to develop this. It's not something that needs to be done today. Stephanie?
I was just gonna suggest maybe, do we want to put this, so we don't have a meeting on January 1st, which would have been our
The next.
next scheduled meeting. So we
Right.
don't have a meeting till January 15th. We do have a presentation that day, from the folks at CET, but I'm wondering if we want to put this on that agenda as a separate discussion item rather than just in updates.
Yeah, it would just need some time. So whenever you feel like we could sit with it and give it the appropriate attention, it fits. And again, we have time, so it's not something that is super urgent.
Or do you
Yeah.
want to put it on that agenda or the one
Yeah,
after?
let's put it on the January 15 agenda. I think that'd be great. I
Okay.
think that would be great. This is great.
Yes.
Thanks, Tony.
And between now and then, please just look at the document I sent. And I like harsh criticism, so go ahead and give it your all.
Should we?
I
should
also
we
just
share
want
it?
the event to be fun. So if you guys are like, this is too pragmatic or too, I don't know, educational focused, I'm open to suggestions of activities or workshop ideas that are also just enjoyable, not just educational.
Where is that? I'm looking for maybe we should just share it real quick. Should we do that? I'm just trying to find it. I can't find it for some reason. It came through Stephanie, right? Or did it come right from you,
Mhm.
Tony?
It came from Stephanie.
It
I don't
wasn't
think I have the
packet,
power
right?
to share. I don't have the power to share. It wasn't.
We can resend it.
On December 17th.
Yes, it was yesterday.
Okay, I see there's a all I'm seeing is the pamphlet, the glossy. I thought there was something more. Is it the colorful image? It's not the image you're talking about. It was a document, right?
Mm-hmm.
Please see attached. Why am I not seeing it? Oh, Stephanie, go ahead. Do you have it?
No, I'm sorry. I'm looking for it too. I don't know why I'm having trouble finding it. I sent it. Oh, there it is. Hold on. Oh, no, it's in the minutes.
Have that.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding it myself. If Caitlin, if you have it, you can either send it to me or Lori, or even the whole group is fine.
Don't know why I can't find it. It's very weird. Oh, I just found it.
Oh,
There it is. All right, why don't I just share this
Oh, fun.
just quickly? What do you think?
You're a dolphin. Yes.
I'm a what?
Whenever an anonymous person gets on a document that's not within my context, it assigns an animal.
Oh,
And I haven't seen a dolphin yet. So you got a dolphin. I was like, oh, that's fun. I haven't seen a dolphin appear on my
All right.
document before.
that's funny. All right, yeah, I haven't had a chance. I've been immersed in this climate policy stuff, the climate plan stuff. Okay, Elevate.
No worries. That is just an outline of the two organizations.
Yeah. Okay, so this
Not
is
essential.
Okay, so this is Climate Action Forum. So the first one, and then it says, okay, event overview. That's probably what you want to look
Yes.
at, right?
Yeah.
Foster
Yeah.
collaboration between Elevate Research. Yeah. Yeah. I'm on the agenda. Oh dear. Okay. There are folks on ECAC who do have a much longer memory of what this committee has done that could better answer some of these questions, like Laura and Steve. So it might even be better to have them give an opening. Economics, focus. Yeah. Yeah, this sounds fun and interesting and useful and a way to reach out to the community. And, you know, it's just something we're supposed to be doing anyway, right?
Yeah.
Policy and advocacy.
I also, just to preface, I am going to coerce is the word I will use, because I'm going to have to probably use cookies or something to get them to show up. But the Amherst Ballet is also, their building also needs to be restructured, and we have heating problems and energy problems in the building too, as well as with the Amherst Survival Center. So it's also one of those things where what I'm going to disseminate this towards isn't just local homeowners, but it's also businesses that are interested, that I think would benefit from your knowledge.
Oh, this would be great. This sounds really interesting. And I like the people you have, the groups you're thinking of bringing in.
That took a lot of work, to be honest. And Laura was actually on my mind. Laura said something at our retreat that was really inspiring. And I was like, that would be good for other people to hear. I can't remember what it was though, but it was nice to hear.
All right, so I
Have
think
to
this is
find
a-
that inspiration again. I don't know if I still have it.
And I'm so glad I got you back. You should also bring those cookies that you made last time.
Yes,
So
I can do that. That is something I can do.
both of those would be a fantastic addition to this event.
All right, so I think this is good to have a longer discussion on this next time and come with your ideas.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I think that would be great. All right. Is there any other discussion that we want to do this time? Any comments, input, thoughts? Not. Bunch of questions at the end, messages.
And those cues are for us to consider as organizations when we are thinking through this. So when you look at this in preparation for the January 15th meeting, those questions are what like Steve and Laura might be able to articulate.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Yes.
This is awesome. That is really it's a really nice thing you're spearheading. I think this is, you know, sort of what makes ECAC. People come with their own stuff that they want to put in, and hopefully good things come.
I did also make note after the discussion that you had earlier in the meeting regarding the new carbon that's happening on campus. I think that would also be a really good conversation to have.
Yeah, we'll see where we are in May. It might be a very good conversation to have
at this event.
Be great to get Ezra Small there, but I doubt we'll be able to without Tillman. We'll see. Any rate, what next? Get back to my agenda. All right, heat pumps. I don't have anything else to add, and as usual, Stephanie, you could either report now or later. What's going on?
Later.
Later, okay. I don't have anything with climate resilient schools either. Advisory and support. Rental building efficiency bylaw. Any new stuff there, Steve? Nope. Transportation.
I was just gonna say, there was
Oh,
a
sorry, Steve.
call on that Wednesday of last week. But that was I still had a class to teach, so I could not participate in that call. But hopefully I'll be able to participate starting in January and hopefully next spring.
Okay, cool. And Tony, transportation, anything? No. Regional and state, there was something I wanted to mention. What was it? There was a new policy around something. It'll probably come to me later. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down, so I don't remember what it was. There's been all sorts of stuff coming out of the State House recently, and I haven't had with the end of the semester and grading, I haven't had the wherewithal to keep track of it. But one thing did. Oops, I'm blanking out. All right, let's go to staff updates then. Stephanie.
So, just in terms of the heat pump program, I thought that I was gonna have a draft, after the last meeting, but I still don't have the draft quite yet. But they do anticipate that I will have it, probably, if not, within the next week, then certainly the following week. So, I should be getting that soon, definitely before the January 15th meeting. So it may be that it just comes like the first week of January and I have to comment and review it before they come speak to you all. So, but I do anticipate, but it is coming. They are working on it. So, it sounds like they're just trying to, really solidify things. So that's coming. That's the only update I have in terms of the heat pump program. The 2 EV charging stations, they are looking to start getting some of the electrification, infrastructure or electric infrastructure, set up starting tomorrow. So the stations should be installed themselves by the beginning of January, but it could take some time for the transformers that are supplied by Eversource to get installed. What I was told is they're like 6 to 7 months behind. So that could just take some time. So it might be that like the stations get installed and then they're just sitting there until Eversource gets it together and gets us what we need. But they are going in and that's really exciting that I'm just happy that this is finally moving forward.
Where will they be located?
Oh, those are, it's called the CVS parking lot. So it's the municipal parking lot that's behind CVS, adjacent to North Prospect Street.
A lot that is always full.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the municipal, it's funny because the entire thing is in a municipal lot. It's just the
Yeah.
portion to the right is a municipal lot and the 2 fast charge stations will actually be in the far right back corner of the parking lot.
Nice.
So it'll probably need some lighting, but we're gonna worry about the lighting. Right now, we need to just get the stations installed. So we're gonna focus on that.
Stephanie, what kind of charging stations? I think you said
They're fast charge.
DC
so
fast charge.
Yep, level 3. Yep. So, and there'll be 2 of them.
And what will they be part of a charge point or EVgo or one of those networks?
They're charge point. All of our charging in Amherst the municipality is installing. We just do all charge point just because if something goes wrong, it's just easier to deal with, the one vendor. So.
And do you know what the pricing is going to be for the public use of those? Or how that gets even
No.
decided?
No clue right now. No.
Okay.
I don't. I wasn't involved in the pricing of the current charging. I do know that it is going to go up though, because our pricing has been fairly low. It's a lot of us, those of us who are staff have often said it's much less expensive to charge when we go to work than it is to charge at our homes. So, but I think it was I think right now the charging is about 20 cents per kilowatt hour, I think for the municipal charging. So,
Yeah, that's a good deal.
yeah, it's gonna go up though.
Yeah.
I just don't know to what. So, but I think those are the only real updates I have right now.
I guess continuing with the charging thought, Who in town decides what to charge? Is that part of someone in the finance group?
I-
Or is it
honestly, it's
charge?
the collector, the town manager, I think I honestly don't know who it is, I'm not as involved with that in terms of who sets the rates.
Yeah,
I don't know who sets all the parking rates. But certainly the town manager can spearhead changing those rates. So I don't know who decides what they ultimately are.
do you know, is it possible to have a system where, say, low-income residents could apply and then get electricity at a lower rate if they qualify somehow?
Um, I would think so, but I don't know how, again, is it possible? Probably, but I don't
Yeah.
know how. I mean, because I don't know how they would. I mean, right now, the way this works is that essentially ChargePoint reimburses us because we pay the bills, but then they reimburse us. So again, I really don't know. I think that's I could look into it, but that's a whole other conversation. With with the right entity, which I don't know who that is. So,
That might be something to worth just keep in mind and look for an opportunity to raise that as a possibility for the town to, not, I don't think subsidize is the right word, but to provide a discount to people who are low income or otherwise show some sort of energy insecurity or hardship.
yeah, I don't know how we do that, like I wonder just about parking in general. Like I don't think we have there are separate rates. The rates are the
Right.
rates.
Right.
And like right now, the charging rates are less expensive than anyone would have in their own home. Like, I mean, universally, everybody has said it's less expensive to charge in town than it is to do so at my own home. So I think, you know, unless they live in a housing complex where they have some rate structure, I just don't know how the town would address that because I don't think we do that for any other kind of parking or, so I don't know. I'll ask Steve and I'll look into it, but I mean, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
sure. Okay.
Okay, if there are no other updates from Stephanie, ECAC updates. So I have one. Anyone else have? Okay, then I will mention the letter from Arlie. So we got a letter. Shall I share it, Stephanie, or just talk about it?
It's totally up to you. You can do either.
Maybe I'll just talk about it. So we got a comment asking, let's see, did Stephanie, did you send this to everyone?
No, I don't believe I have yet.
Okay.
I can't remember.
All right, so we got actually, yeah, you did just send it. So a few hours ago, Stephanie sent an email from Arlie sharing some information about heat pumps made with refrigerant, and some concerns about heat pumps made with refrigerants that contain PFAS, which is true and something that I think is well known. I was certainly aware of it. That the history, as I understand it, is that until about in the 1990s somewhere, there was a switch from R22, which was a refrigerant that was eating the ozone layer, to what is the new one called? I always get the numbers mixed up. Let me make sure I have my notes here. To R410A, which if you own a heat pump is probably what's in your heat pump. Fortunately, R410A is now being phased out in part because it's a terrible greenhouse gas, which most people are aware of, but also because it's half PFAS, which are those forever chemicals that don't break down and that can be toxic in the environment. So it's being phased out, and I don't know if it's clear yet what the successor is going to be. There's a couple of things out there I keep hearing about, and I get the numbers mixed up. And I honestly don't know what their PFAS status is. I know at least one of them they're talking about may or may not contain PFAS, depending on how you define PFAS. So, I don't know where that's going, but Arlie also pointed out that propane and CO2 are up and coming, which is true. And I know that the Heat Smart community and the heat pump coaching community in general has been eagerly awaiting them for a long time now. You can get CO2 heat pumps for use in making hot water. They are expensive. I actually priced one out when I got my solar assisted hot water heater, heat pump hot water heater. They are expensive, and that's because CO2 operates at a much higher pressure than standard refrigerants. It's old. It's been used a long time, I think, as a refrigerant, but it does require much higher pressures, and which means the equipment is just more expensive. Everything is more expensive, and all the specifications are tighter. Propane is great and could be a drop-in solution, and is a drop-in solution in the UK, for example. It's a drop-in solution for our baseboard water heaters. It can get water up to something like 170 Fahrenheit, which no other air-to-water heat pump can do, or 165, I think. Hot enough to power your baseboards, to heat your house with the existing baseboards. So that would be great, especially in New England. We really need it. But it's still not, I think it's not legal in the US yet because it's propane, it's explosive, and most, or at least burns, and most HVAC experts are not accustomed to dealing with that. So it's being eagerly awaited by a lot of people. I know people who have been waiting to transition their home because they're expecting to be able to get a propane heat pump so they don't have to replace their baseboards with ducts. And they are available elsewhere in the world, so it should happen. At any rate, that's my 2 cents on that, what I know about that. Some of you may know more. Any comments on that? Any other?
I guess I'm just curious if Arlie expressed any particular action that they thought the ECAC should do, or research, or questions to address.
I think her email was just informational. And she wanted to know if we were up on these newer refrigerants. Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, so thanks, Lori. That was helpful background. I am intrigued by this propane thing.
Yeah.
Because propane's a fossil fuel. And
but not a greenhouse gas.
it burns and you make CO2.
You don't burn it. You don't burn it in a heat pump.
You don't burn it in this system,
Yeah.
but then what's that you still have to make it. And you
Small
can only
quantities.
make protein by taking oil and cracking it into a lot of other products, all of which are also fossil fuels that are used, right? So, and if the argument is you don't burn it and it doesn't leave the system, then that's the same argument for refrigerants, and therefore I'm not understanding the
Well,
issue.
when it does escape, it's not as dangerous as refrigerants, as existing refrigerants.
Yeah.
And you're talking about much smaller volumes, right? I mean, we're talking about, if you compare the volume of refrigerant needed in the world to the volume of gas, it's small, and you're not burning it. So I think if you're not burning, I guess you still have to crack it to get the propane, right? So how do you get the propane?
You have to crack it to get the propane, and refrigerants are not a heat pump only problem. Refrigerants are used in lots of things.
Oh, yeah, refrigerators and
So air conditionings, refrigerators. So I think it's a bit of the forest for the trees issue here. Like, heat pumps are a really good solution, and I don't think that and refrigerants are being addressed. And unfortunately, you're right. Like, every new refrigerant we identify has additional issues. So, propane's not a great one. Maybe we can find something that's even better than propane.
CO2.
But I'm not sure that this is an issue that would stop us from moving forward with the heat pump program, which was what I
Okay.
read into the email.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Or to invest in much more expensive heat pumps, which
Yeah.
the article that was sent to us was from a commercial
Yeah.
provider of more expensive heat pumps. So I think we have to also keep that in mind.
But I don't, they're also not 0113. I don't think they're in the US.
No,
So
it's UK based.
that's the problem, is it's UK based, and they're available in the UK. They're not even available here yet, is the thing. CO2 there's a manufacturer I can't think of the name of right now that is, the people are installing them. And they're split units, which is nice because it means that for making hot water, you're not sucking heat out of your basement to make the hot water, you're sucking it out of the air outside. But they do have their issues. They're the ones that they've been installing around here. They circulate the water outside. And in the winter, if there's a power outage, this is a problem. So they have to be combined with some sort of a shutoff valve or a drain valve, that if the power goes out, they need to drain the water in the outside unit and close a valve somewhere. And they don't come with that. So people had started to install them for hot water heaters and then stopped, I think, largely because they were running into trouble in the winter. So the CO2 still needs some work, and they're expensive. They're twice the price of a regular.
And I think we have to also, I mean, I understand your point that the propane is not burned, but like, how are they recycled? Do they just let the propane into the air? Do they burn it then? Like, I still think there's.
Well, it leaks out like it does in any, but propane breaks down in sunlight very quickly. And
Okay.
it's 0.7 of CO2. It's a less of a greenhouse gas than CO2 is.
Okay.
So it
Point
doesn't.
seven is not that less, but right?
It's not nothing.
It's
It's
seven
not
out of
nothing.
one. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not
but it's-
nothing, but
But it's
I
not 400 like our 410A or whatever it is, 7,000.
yes, which is why we switched back to the PFAS ones.
Yeah, right. Well,
So I mean, like, we're like,
yeah.
causing lots of, I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot of PFAS talk in this town, and a lot of it is, I think, just distracting.
Yeah, it's always a matter of which ill. And right now there is definitely a overriding concern to just reduce the amount of CO2 in the air, period.
Lori, Arlie does have their hand
Oh,
raised. Do you want?
Okay, and I think if there's no more comments, we are at the public comment period, right? Have we
Yeah.
come to public comments? Yes, we
Well,
have.
yeah, we're skipping items for next meeting agenda, but
Oh,
we can do that after public comment. It's
Yeah.
fine.
that's fine. Okay, so let's go ahead to Arlie then, who has their hand raised.
Arlie, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. No, I wasn't sending it to say you shouldn't do the heat pump thing. I'm new to a lot of this. I'm learning about it, and I was just interested in the program that Amherst is doing. So I'm just sending it informationally. I assumed that you probably knew more about it than I did. That article was just something I found quickly, that talked about it. So yeah, it wasn't about, and it's true. I don't know, is PFAS a big conversation in this town? I haven't heard about it that much, so so I'm not that aware about that, but so anyway, I'm very happy with what you're talking about, what you're doing. I think this is a great group and very knowledgeable, and I'm very appreciative of everything you're doing. So very impressed also. So sorry that, that person felt a little attacked or something, because I wasn't. I was just trying to say this is an issue that I just learned about. So that's all. Thank you.
That's fine, Arlie. Thank you very much for your comment too, because it is something that we should be talking about. And know that in the heat pump coaching community, the refrigerants are a constant topic of discussion.
Okay, thanks.
So anything else? Any other updates? And then our items for the meeting agenda. So we had for the next meeting, Tony's document, and we have a presentation. And Laura's going to draft a letter with me, and we'll probably have that as well. But so we should probably keep the UMA climate plan on there as well.
I'm sorry, Lori's, the UMass climate, leave that on.
Sorry, UMass climate. Yeah, leave that on because there'll be a letter to discuss.
Okay, I'll put letter specifically.
Yeah.
So draft letter, okay. All right, I've got those items noted, so.
Anything else? If not, thank you all. Have a good holiday. Oh my gosh, I feel like, and Stephanie, have a wonderful holiday and a wonderful new year. And I feel like we should have had a party today.
Thank you all for all the work that you do. It's really greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
So have a safe and wonderful holiday season, everybody.
Yeah.
And January 15th is the next meeting,
Right, we will not meet on New Year's Eve or whatever it is.
New Year's Day.
New Year's Day.
Okay,
All right, take care.
bye all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.